Because of no Malunga, Jordan Horston slides into the starting lineup. Then from three, her ability to stretch the floor.
Before I get into this one, a quick correction on the number floating around the internet right now. A lot of channels are running with a claim that Caitlin Clark's new Nike logo shirt has hit $50 million in sales. I went and checked. Nike hasn't released that number. No business outlet has reported it. And the only place it shows up is in other YouTube video titles making the exact same claim. So instead of repeating a number nobody can actually source, I'm going to show you what's actually confirmed. Sellouts in minutes, resale prices more than tripling retail, a signature shoe deal already worth more than any endorsement in women's basketball history, and a jersey that's been the league's top seller even during a season where she barely played. That's a bigger story than a made-up dollar figure anyway, and by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why Nike bet this big on one player, and what happens next in 2026 when her actual signature shoe finally drops. Stick around, because around the halfway mark, I'm going to walk you through the injury timeline that makes this level of demand even more remarkable, since Clark barely played half the season this all happened in. Let's start with the actual timeline, because the order of events here matters. Nike first signed Caitlin Clark to a name, image, and likeness deal back in 2022 while she was still tearing up college basketball at Iowa. 2 years later, in April of 2024, right after she became the top overall pick in the WNBA draft, she signed an 8-year extension with Nike reportedly worth $28 million. At the time, that was described as the richest sponsorship contract ever given to a women's basketball player, full stop, college or pro. That number is worth sitting with for a second, because it wasn't Nike betting on what Clark had already accomplished, it was Nike betting on future demand for a player who hadn't taken a single professional shot yet. Then, in August of 2025, Nike took the next step and named her one of its official signature athletes, putting her in the same tier as A'ja Wilson and Sabrina Ionescu as active WNBA players with their own signature sneaker line. Alongside that announcement came her personal logo, 2 interlocking C's with a smaller hidden C tucked inside, which Nike described as representing her game being built from the inside out. A navy and yellow logo t-shirt became available on Nike.com starting September 1st, with a broader collection of hoodies, shorts, pants, and premium adult pieces following on October 1st. Her actual signature shoe, the one product line this entire partnership has been building toward, is scheduled to debut sometime in 2026. Now, here's where the actual demand story gets interesting, because you don't need an invented sales figure when the real pattern of sellouts tells you everything you need to know. Earlier in 2025, before the logo shirt even existed, Nike released a Kobe V Protro sneaker in a special player edition colorway built around Clark's Indiana Fever colors, navy blue with touches of red, orange, and yellow. Those shoes went on sale at a retail price of $190, and Nike confirmed to Fox Business that they sold out within minutes. Within hours of that sellout, resale prices on those same shoes were sitting well above $350 a pair, with at least one listing going for $642, more than triple what they cost on release day. That's not a marketing department's claim about demand, that's the actual secondary resale market pricing in real time exactly how badly people wanted this specific product. And that sellout happened during a season where Clark's on-court availability was genuinely limited, which makes the demand even more remarkable once you look at what was actually happening with her health that year. Here's that injury context I mentioned earlier, because it changes how you should read all of these sales numbers. During the 2025 season, Clark missed 24 games due to various injuries, including a stretch of 15 consecutive games, sidelined by a right groin strain that kept her out from mid-July all the way into the fall. She hadn't played or even practiced in weeks by the time Nike made her a signature athlete in late August. Under normal marketing logic, that's exactly the kind of gap in on-court visibility that tanks a player's merchandise momentum, because most fans buy jerseys and gear off what they're seeing on the court every night. Instead, reporting at the time specifically noted that Clark's Fever jersey remained the league's top seller, despite her missing the majority of the season. That's the real headline buried in this story. Nike wasn't betting on Clark's availability in any given month. They were betting on a level of cultural pull strong enough to keep selling merchandise even when the product, meaning Clark on the actual court, was unavailable for weeks at a time. That's an incredibly rare thing to see in sports marketing, and it's the actual data point that should be driving a video like this, not a made-up sales total. It's also worth zooming out to what's been happening around Clark's games more broadly, because the shirt and shoe sellouts aren't happening in isolation. They're part of a much bigger commercial pattern that's followed her since before she even turned pro. Her Fever jerseys sold out nationwide before she'd played a single professional game, and Nike actually caught criticism at the time for failing to keep up with that early demand. Road games against Indiana have forced opposing franchises like the Aces and the Mystics to relocate to larger venues just to meet ticket demand. And on resale markets, median prices for Fever road games have climbed past $550 in some cities. None of that is shirt or shoe revenue directly, but it paints the full picture of why Nike is willing to build an entire signature line, sneaker included, around one player in a league that's historically had a much smaller retail footprint than the men's game. When her actual signature shoe was still just a rumor, industry insiders were already floating figures suggesting the shoe alone could become what one analyst called a $100 million business once it's fully in market, which tells you how seriously the sneaker industry is taking this launch even before a single pair has been sold. Let's talk about what makes this particular deal historically unusual, because most signature shoe deals in the WNBA don't get this level of attention before the shoe even exists. When Clark's shoe finally releases, she'll become the 5th active WNBA player with her own signature sneaker, and the 15th player in the league's entire history to reach that milestone. That's a meaningful marker of how small this club actually is. Signature shoes in women's basketball have historically been rare, reserved for a handful of true franchise cornerstones over the sport's entire existence. And Clark reaching that status in barely 2 pro seasons, several of them shortened by injury, is a genuinely fast track compared to how these deals have traditionally been earned. Now here's my actual take on all of this, and I think it's going to be a little different from what most channels covering this story are saying. I think the real story isn't the merchandise numbers at all, inflated or otherwise. It's what those sellouts represent about Nike's broader strategy shift toward women's basketball, and whether the rest of the league can actually benefit from the attention Clark is pulling in. My first reason is that Nike spent years being criticized, including by its own athletes' camps, for underinvesting in women's basketball marketing, and this level of commitment to one player suggests the company finally sees enough return on investment to justify real spending in the space, which could open doors for other players down the line. My second reason is that the sellout pattern held up even through a heavily injury-shortened season, which tells you this isn't hype tied to highlight reels, it's a durable brand connection that survives a player simply being unavailable, and that kind of loyalty is exactly what turns a single athlete deal into a genuine product category. My third reason is that putting Clark at just the 15th signature shoe athlete in WNBA history in this short a time frame sets a template other young players and their agents are going to point to in every future negotiation with every shoe company, not just Nike. Now, the Steelman case against my take is fair too. Some critics have pointed out that Nike was slow to capitalize on Clark specifically, going years without a real commercial push around her, even as demand was clearly already there. And that criticism suggests the company's institutional approach to women's sports marketing still lags behind what the actual market has been telling them for a while now. I think that's a legitimate point, and it means Nike's current commitment, however real it looks today, isn't proof the company has fully changed how it thinks about investing in women's basketball long-term. So here's my question for you. Do you think Nike's investment in Clark is going to translate into real structural investment in the WNBA as a whole? Or is this strictly a one-player business decision that doesn't move the needle for anyone else in the league? Let me know in the comments. Let's get into predictions, because I want you to be able to check back on these. First prediction: high confidence. When Clark's actual signature shoe releases sometime in 2026, I expect it to sell out on release day nationally. following the exact same pattern the Kobe V Protro colorway and the logo shirt already established, and I expect resale prices to spike well above retail within the first 24 hours. Second prediction, medium confidence. I think we're going to see at least one more WNBA player land a comparable signature shoe or expanded apparel deal within the next year, as other brands look at what Nike is doing with Clark and try to replicate that model with their own top-tier talent. Third prediction, lower confidence, the riskier one. I think if Clark has another injury-shortened season in 2026, you're going to see actual sales data debates like this one happen again, with unverified numbers spreading online faster than real reporting can catch up, simply because there's no official Nike sales disclosure for individual signature lines, and that vacuum always gets filled with guesses. Here's what to watch for next. Keep an eye on any official Nike earnings calls or investor communications throughout 2026, since publicly traded companies occasionally disclose category-level performance, even if they never break out one athlete's numbers specifically. And that's the closest thing we're likely to get to real verified sales data. Also, watch for the actual signature shoe release date once Nike confirms it, because that launch, not the shirt, is going to be the real test of whether this level of demand holds up once the flagship product actually exists. In my next video, I'm breaking down every active WNBA signature shoe deal currently on the books, ranking them by reported value and actual sellout speed, so you can see exactly where Clark's deal really stacks up against players like Aja Wilson and Sabrina Ionescu, instead of just taking one channel's word for it. Here's the one thing to take away from all of this. You don't need to inflate a number to tell a genuinely impressive story here. Caitlin Clark sold out a sneaker colorway in minutes, kept her jersey as the league's top seller through a season where she barely played, and became just the 15th player in WNBA history to land a signature shoe deal. All of that is true, sourced, and honestly, more interesting than a made-up sales total anyway. If you want breakdowns like this that actually separate what's confirmed from what's just circulating online, subscribe, because I'm not interested in repeating a number I can't back up, and I'll keep calling that out whenever I see it. Last question for the comments. Now that you've seen the real, sourced numbers behind this story, does the actual demand pattern impress you more or less than the $50 million claim that's been going around? Let me know below.